This podcast is not intended to and does not create a client-therapist relationship between the AllPro Mindset hosts, Jason Vrabel or Dr. Aaron Sapio, and any other person. Although tips for incorporating mindfulness interventions into your daily life are offered, this podcast is not a group therapy session and is not intended to take the place of therapeutic intervention.
You are listening to Doc and Jay on AllPro Mindset, where we interview professionals, explore positive outlooks, and make connections to our own lives. Jay, tell us about who you are and what you do.
Hey, Doc, and welcome, listeners. A little bit about myself. Really, since the time I was 7 and competing in wrestling, I've really been fascinated and interested in the human mind and human behavior and really most recently, human performance. And it really expanded when I was in college and had an opportunity to really observe that strong and resilient mindset. And that was actually really glaringly apparent this past weekend at the NCAA tournament, which I'll have an opportunity to touch on a little bit later. But this ultimately led to my graduate studies in the field of sports psychology, eventually merged in with my personal experience as a competitor, and really just became obsessed with gaining insight and get my hands on as much information as I can in this rapidly growing field. So, that's a little bit about myself. Doc, can tell us a little about, who you are, what you do?
Absolutely. My primary focus has been working with adolescents and children to help them be their best selves both in school and in social situations. I have a doctorate in a national certification in school psychology. I'm also a New Jersey licensed psychologist, and I work full-time in a public school district, and I work part-time as an adjunct professional. Okay.
Thanks for sharing. So really here at AllPro Mindset, our goal really is to have professionals call in and really, probe and pick their brains and really identify from our terms and our perspective when they knew that they were all in doing what they were doing. Really, where did it start? What were pivotal moments? What were the thought processes that led to help them, overcome challenges? And really, ultimately, what helped them to develop the professional mindset that they do to lead to the success that they have.
So listeners, as we talk with our guest and reflect on how these ideas fit into our own lives, we'll hope that you will take time to relax and really tune in. Let yourself be inspired. If you're listening live, feel free to call in with questions or comments at 856-345-9988. That number again is 856-345-9988. During our last show, we talked to Luis Aloro from the Flourishing Center, and through the week, I had thought about a lot with the interview and our reflection, and really what stuck with me was the PERMA V model, this not one-size-fits-all model to positive psychology.
Yeah, the PERMA V model really, which started its roots out of the University of Pennsylvania with Dr. Seligman and has expanded, through the Flourishing Center, is really identifying that acronym as positivity, engagement, relationships, meaning, achievement, and vitality. And I think that the idea behind that specific model is that while there are different pathways to learning how to thrive, in our lives and focus on our strengths, that it's no specific pathway. However, the synergy between each pathway can ultimately lead to what we identify as ultimate thriving or flourishing in our lives.
Mm-hmm. And tonight we're going to be talking specifically about passion. Dr. Vallerand, a social psychologist from Canada, proposed a dualistic model of passion for activities. And we know that people can have passion for a variety of activities. And Dr. Vallerand says that passion can either be harmonious or obsessive. And the harmonious passions lead to positive outcomes. And it's the obsessive passions that can lead to maladaptive outcomes. So as we speak with our guest and think about our own passions, we should reflect on whether those passions are harmonious and adding to our lives or obsessive and causing us problems.
So tonight we're speaking with Cynthia May. Cynthia won the 2015 IFBB Figure Pro title. The IFBB, or the International Federation of Bodybuilding and Fitness, is the governing body of the sport, bodybuilding and fitness, and was founded in 1946 in Canada. It is recognized as the sole international sport federation for the sport of bodybuilding and fitness. Cynthia is also a certified trainer and an instructor on competition posing with her company, CMay Fitness.
Hi, Cynthia.
Hey, how are you?
We are well. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, we're so happy to have you.
Welcome.
So tell us, how did your journey in the world of fitness begin?
Okay, well, I'll start by saying I don't recommend my journey for everyone. It is merely my journey, so probably made some bad choices along the way, or not smart choices in reflection, but nonetheless, it's my journey, and so I'm happy to share it and hope people take away something from it. Mm-hmm. But I had mentioned I was diagnosed in the early 2000s with Crohn's disease, which is a digestive disorder of the small intestine. They don't know how you get it. There's no cure for it, but there is maintenance drugs that doctors can prescribe that you would be on for the remainder of your life. Crohn's affects everyone differently. For me, I was dealing with chronic fatigue. I probably ate maybe 2 meals a day. I had very, low appetite. I lost weight dramatically. Spent time in and out of the hospital. And so for me, my quality of life was not great. Walking a flight of stairs felt like, running a marathon for me. And so I had dealt with it for a number of years and kind of resigned myself to the fact that this is what it is, or, I'll do something about it, eventually. But in 2013, a childhood friend of mine who I'd found out had the same condition that I had, underwent some very severe medical issues. And it kind of rocked me to my core. Mm-hmm. We're the same age, we had the same condition, and, something out of the blue happened to this individual, and it shook me. And what it did was it removed the lie I had been telling myself, was that I had time. Mm-hmm. And so it was in that moment where, I really kind of took a look at my life, an assessment of things, and I just knew I didn't want where I was at anymore. I didn't want it. I didn't want this thing that I had. I didn't want to take this medication that I was told I had to take. I did not want it. And so I prayed heavily. And I made a decision without speaking to my doctor. So it's one of those things that I don't recommend others do. Mm-hmm. But before I did that, I always look at situations and I say, what's the very worst that could happen? In my mind, the worst that could happen, because it wasn't a life-threatening condition, the worst that would happen was I would have what you call a flare-up. I would end up back in the hospital. And I figured, been there, done that, I know what to expect. So I'm going to go forward, believing that I can change this thing, I can be in control of this thing. And so because endurance was such a problem for me, I decided to sign up and join this kickboxing class. I moved forward with the kickboxing. And during that class, I actually met a woman who, had these muscles and had all this energy. And I approached her and I was like, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Are you a bodybuilder? Are you? And she said, no, but I weight train. I weight train for myself. And so I went with her one day to her gym, and I decided to, get into weight training. And I wanted to, really begin to see what I could do to help shape and change the condition that I was in. So the whole bodybuilding thing, I never got into this to be a bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. It's what I grew into, but I got into it to really change my life. And so when I started to see the changes in my body and I didn't have the issues that I was having previously with the Crohn's disease. And, I was getting stronger and more energy, and my appetite was up, and all of those things. I ended up going to a bodybuilding show. And at that point, I wanted to see, now that I felt in control of my body, I wanted to see what I could require my body to do. I wanted to see how far I could push it. Not to mention there was a stage, and I'm a bit of a ham. And so I was like, oh, I get to get on stage and people have to look at me?
Nice.
Tell me more. And so that was kind of how my journey started there. I then said, what would it take for me to be able to do that? And we put a plan together so that, in 2015, I stepped on stage for the first time. So it was the end of 2013 that I made the decision to start. 2014 is when I actually started a regular routine of nutrition and working out. And in 2015, I stepped on the stage for the first time as a figure competitor in the NPC at the time, the National Physique Committee, and that's the amateur bodybuilding federation to the IFBB. So I competed there through 2015, through 2016, and then in 2016, I won my IFBB Pro card.
Cynthia, I'm wondering how, someone in their late, 30s, mid to late 30s, makes that conscious decision. And I know you walked us through some of those decisions, but when you first kind of stepped in that environment, I mean, were there naysayers? What was the message that was being communicated to you from people around you?
So here's a great thing about bodybuilding. There are men and women of all ages in this sport. You can compete from a teen level. They have teen divisions all the way up to, Grand Masters divisions. There are competitors in their 60s and 70s that get on stage.
Wow.
So I never had anyone tell me that I shouldn't compete. The community that I'm in, the Mid-Atlantic area for bodybuilding, it's a small community of bodybuilders, but the ones that are in my gym or that I've, followed and come in contact with, have always provided a level of support, to the judges, providing feedback in clinics and seminars. And, so there was a wealth of information around how to go about this thing. But I'm the type of person, I think my dad said it because, like you said, at my age of, 37 when I decided to do this thing, 38, competing for the first time. And, I called my parents and told them I was going to get into bodybuilding. And we weren't a family that grew up, we're a football family, baseball family. They were like, what are you doing? But my father said it. He's like, well, when my daughter decides to do something, you can take that to the bank. So it was just a matter, they knew when I decide I'm going to do something, I'm tunnel vision, and I just have a stupid amount of faith in God and in my ability in God. So for me, there was never a question around could I do this thing. It was more around making sure that I was equipped and prepared to go through the journey of it.
Yeah, I guess that kind of answers the question that I was thinking, was that you struggled with a chronic health condition for about 14 years. And then in a matter of 1 year, you went from saying that it felt like you ran a marathon if you just walked up a flight of stairs to going to kickboxing class to a year later being on a stage competing. That's tremendous transformation in 1 year.
Yeah. At the end of the day, with the condition, the way it affected me, like I said, doctors don't know what causes it. And so I look at the things that I changed. One, I prayed mightily. And so I believe in the power of prayer. But two, I began regular exercise and I began regular nutrition.
Okay.
I believe all three of those things had an impact on my condition. I wasn't doing regular nutrition. I wasn't doing regular exercise before. And so, for me, I attribute a lot of the my ability to overcome those things from implementing those things in my life.
Well, and I find it interesting because one of the things that you were quoted as saying is an exercise in faith. And somehow, I'm relating that to, you had said just from a mutual friend that I had time, and I kind of look at this thing as this existential piece, like, hey, there's this idea that we're trudging along and we're moving, and we hit that point where we say, is this it? Is there more? Right. And if not, what am I going to do to change it? So I'm wondering if you can maybe tie those two pieces together.
Yeah, I think, sometimes things happen directly to us, or things happen, to someone that we're very connected to, and it forces you. Unfortunately, those are the things that really force you to have to look at your situation and what's really important. For me, it was my health. For other people, it could be, going for that job you want, or it could be making a move. It could be going back to school. And a lot of the times we're putting things off because we always say, well, now's not the right time for me. I've got this going on, or I have that going on. And the truth of the matter is there will always be something going on. Mm-hmm. There's always something. There's never a perfect time for anything. So it's about making a decision that, this will be the time. For me, I was tired of being tired. Mm-hmm. I was tired of giving myself excuses. I probably dealt with a level of depression. For me, mine was triggered by stress. And one of the things that I learned, and I learned, I probably really realized it going through bodybuilding, is I don't handle stress well. And that's a constant thing that I have to work on, how I deal with stress. And what bodybuilding did for me is it showed me, physically what stress does to you. And so it's looking at your situation. What are you unhappy with? How long have you been unhappy with this thing? And what are the things that are absolutely within your control to change? Mm-hmm. And then deciding, how important is it to me? And what am I willing to sacrifice so that I'm no longer in this position a year from now, 6 months from now? And those are the conversations that we all have to have with ourselves. When you find yourself in a situation, it's looking at, are there things that I can personally do, steps that I can personally take to change the situation? And if so, what are my resources? What's a plan I can do? What are the actions that I can take to get one step further? I think a lot of people look at, I'll say specifically when I talk to clients about, weight loss, everyone gets so overwhelmed with the fact that, I have all this weight to lose, mm-hmm. or, I have to, it seems so daunting. And then in reality, all you have to do is take one step.
Right.
And not look at the finish line. You can't see the finish line, but you can see that first step. So focus on each step.
So now that you've gone through this process, how has bodybuilding changed your life?
It's like I said, one, I realized that I don't handle stress well. I think what was evident to me is, in the world of bodybuilding, you go through seasons, kind of this off season, and you're in competition preparation mode. So you'll hear, I'm in prep right now. And when you're going through that prep mode, you're stressing yourself. You're stressing yourself physically because you're trying to, get unnecessary weight off. Mm-hmm. You're manipulating your nutrition, and so it messes with, your energy levels. You're still having to work out and find energy, and life does not stop because you're, in prep mode. Financially, it's not cheap. So you have all these stressors going on. And at the end of, last year after I won my pro card, I went back to the gym, and I was in my off season. I was, getting some more calories in me and was eating a little more freely. And, my mood had changed, and people were joking with me, and they said, wow, I didn't know you smiled, and they were laughing, and it made me feel horrible. It was the most horrible thing, because what I realized is that I allowed bodybuilding to be an excuse instead of recognizing it's the way I'm handling the stressors. And so I would never want anyone to think that because of bodybuilding, I'm not friendly, I'm not approachable, I'm not. And so for me, it's allowed me to constantly assess. You assess yourself physically, but, I also had to assess, how am I going through this process? And, am I being a really good ambassador for this sport? And, at that moment, I realized that, I didn't previously deal with stress well. I was someone who would shut down and deal with it quietly. When I managed or mismanaged my condition, when I was going through things, I would not tell anyone what I was going through. I was very shut down and quiet and would go through it, not wanting to be a burden to people. And I had my friends tell me flat out, they had to sit me down and say, you don't get to decide what's a burden to me. If I'm your friend, you've got to allow me to be that. And so when I had that conversation in the gym, I was like, ooh, I'm still not handling stress well. It just looks different. That's all. I also had to learn that the scale is a liar. As you start to build muscle for this sport, all the scale is reflecting is your total weight. And a lot of times as women, we live and die by this number on the scale that somehow means some level of fitness. And so it had to, change my view on how I looked at the scale. And I also had to learn how to appreciate my body through every phase, right? So you look at pictures of bodybuilders and they're in this, they're chiseled down and they look amazing, but that, you don't keep that look all year long. When you're trying to build muscle, you're going to put on some fat, you're going to look a little fuller, and so it messes with your mind a little bit. And I had to learn how to appreciate what my body looks like and what it's able to accomplish through each phase of it. And then, with the invention of social media, I'm still very young in this sport. I haven't been doing this terribly long, but what then you can end up doing is looking at other competitors and comparing yourself to them. And I had to realize I can't compare my journey to anyone else's journey. I don't know what it took for them to get where they are. I don't know how long they've been doing it. And so just really realizing that my journey is my journey, and no one can go through it but me, and everyone else's journey is their journey. And then I also learned, just physically, everything matters. When you start really getting to that point where you're about to step on stage and the changes your body goes through, you really begin to understand what you put in your body matters, your sleep matters, what stress actually does to the body. And so all of those things have really been an education for me that, how you manage things in life always takes a toll. Sometimes you don't get the benefit of seeing it unless it shows up at the doctor's office. So, for me, it's really been making sure that I'm taking care of myself through this sport and doing it in a healthy way. Because long after I stopped competing, I've got to live with this body. And so, you want to take care of it through all phases of it. So it's being smart about how you go through things.
Absolutely. So in addition to yourself being a competitor, you also help others. You take on clients, and you also do the competition posing. What are some of the differences in your mentality when you're approaching your own workout or your own competition versus helping prep somebody else?
So for me, I have a coach. Yolanda Alvarado is my coach. And I know some competitors who do their own workouts and nutrition plans, and they're able to do that. For me, I have a coach because I like to just focus on execution.
Okay.
I don't want to have to look at myself and try to figure out, what needs to change. What do I need to manipulate? My eye is not as true when I look at myself. I rarely see what others see. Mm-hmm. And so for me, whatever she puts on that paper is what I have to worry about. And she can concern herself with the rest. What needs to change? Am I looking right? How do we fix this? Or all those things. And so when I'm working with someone else, as an athlete, some of the things that I tell them is, remove your attachment to reward. Everyone wants to win. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's going to win. I've done 5 shows and I've only ever won 2 out of the 5. So when I went into this, it wasn't about, the trophy at the end or the pro card. Not that I didn't want those things, but my focus had to be on learning to love the process. Mm. And everyone loves the reward. Not everyone loves the process. And so if you begin to fall in love with the process and fall in love with the work, the rewards come. I also tell competitors, when whether it's posing or what have you, it's really, you've got to connect to your why. Why are you doing this? And your why can be anything. It doesn't have to be the same as anybody else's why, but you have to have a why. Because I don't feel like going to the gym every day. I don't feel like, eating fish all the time. But if I go back to my why and I understand that these are the things that are necessary to achieve these goals, then it's no question. And so, you've got to have something to fall back on those days where it's really difficult to want to get up and go to the gym, or, things come up and now you've got to, switch your schedule and make a decision around what you miss. But if you're in this window, the gym has to happen. And so those are things that I really kind of like to make sure folks understand, and really understanding too that I've always been someone who's sought out feedback, and I'll take feedback from any and everywhere. Whether I want to hear it or not, I seek it out. And so I always tell people, get feedback. Whether it's from someone who, got something positive to say or not. But if you're not learning while you're going through this, if you're not constantly assessing while you're going through this, you're not getting better.
Yeah.
And so those are things that I think, for me, it's attributed and contributed to some of the success that I've had. Is that when I started out, I was, if you had done one show, you had information I didn't have. And so I would take information from this person and that person and judges. I would get feedback after shows and all of those things. And so I would constantly assess, and I encourage people to, don't worry about that trophy at the end of it, but, start to learn and understand and appreciate the process of going through these things, because you're achieving things while you're along the way, but if you're not stopping and paying attention to them, you're missing all of the great things that are happening while you're going through it.
Mm-hmm.
So Cynthia, is it safe to say this has become a passion of yours?
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah. I feel, one, like I said, I feel in control of my body, and I don't ever want to go back to not feeling that. But it's one of those sports where, we're probably the most critical people of ourselves, bodybuilders. We're constantly looking at our bodies and what still needs work. And so I feel it's one of those things where I can continue to improve and get better and actually visually see it when I attain it. And so for me, that's, I'm driven by that ability to actually be in control of something that I can tangibly see an end result. And, if the award happens at the end of it, that's even better. But for me, I got my health back, and I'm constantly improving. I have an ability to give back and help someone else get to the next step. And to me, there's nothing greater than someone else allowing you to play any part of their journey, whether it's someone who wants to do bodybuilding or just someone who wants to get healthy again. I think it's an amazing gift for someone to allow you to be a part of that. So
I'm wondering, in 30 seconds or less, if you had to have a conversation with yourself 14 years ago,
I've gone over this so many times.
What would you say to yourself?
Get up, and get in the gym.
Get moving.
Yeah. Honestly, it's, focus on your well-being, mentally and physically. It's going to pay out dividends in the long run. Mm-hmm. I wish I would have done that, whether I ever found bodybuilding or not, to have saved myself that 14 years of, in and out of hospitals and medication and, all those things that I went through. If I would have applied, a healthy lifestyle early on, maybe I would have still had this condition. I don't know, but those are things that 14 years ago, I wish I would have implemented that.
Yeah. And the question also becomes is if you didn't go through the process, where,
right.
Who knows if it would have led to where you are today, and the quality of life that you have now. So I guess that's always the big question. Why or what, what would be.
Absolutely. And those are the reasons why, whatever, I tell people, whatever you've been through, you can't change that, right? You can't change what you didn't do. So all you have is this moment right now. You can do something right now. So what are you willing to do in this moment to make it different? Because you're right. Maybe I wouldn't have gone down this path, and maybe I wouldn't be an IFBB Pro. Maybe I wouldn't be helping people every day find a healthy lifestyle. Maybe I wouldn't have all of these wonderful things that I get to enjoy today. So I'm grateful for it all. Whatever path I took, however long it took me, it landed me here. And so I've got to be grateful for it all.
Absolutely. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. If people want to follow you, you're on Instagram, right? Are you CMay?
CMay _ Puma, but you can just search my name, Cynthia May. And I'm also on Facebook, and feel free to reach out.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, Cynthia, thank you so much for sharing your story and answering, spending time with us this evening and our listeners.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great night.
You too.
And listeners, we're going to take a short break and listen to Cynthia's favorite artist. And when we return, we're going to reflect on this interview.
I was wondering, if you could keep on, because the force, it's got a lot of power, and it makes me feel like it makes me feel like just right.
Hello, you're listening to AllPro Mindset. We just spoke with Cynthia May, IFBB Pro, and we are talking about passion tonight. If you want to join our conversation, please give us a call at 856-345-9988.
Hey, folks, welcome back. We had Cynthia May in here. And I guess, one thing that's really kind of sparking or coming to mind, and this is just returning from St. Louis, Missouri. I was out there for the Division I Wrestling Nationals. For those of you who are unaware, Penn State just won their 6th national championship out of the last 7 years. And there's really kind of a lot of things that are circling or bubbling up. And, when you look at sports and you look at, amateur and pro, I guess there's this whole series of intangibles, people preaching and how you connect with your coaches and, are you buying in ultimately? And I think really one of the main things that's standing out in trying to, connect the dots, so to speak, with Cynthia and where she was at, and really looking at this Penn State team, and you say, holy cow, how do you have 5 guys in the national finals and 5 champions? Back-to-back weight classes, unprecedented. And really, in the past decade, in all the years that I've been attending the NCAA tournament, this hands down was by far the most impressive thing that I've ever seen. I mean, dynasty, call it what you want. There is movement and something happening, on that campus, in that room, that is just not happening, anywhere else. And I think some of the things that Cynthia was sharing with us about that notion of, responsibility and utilizing your resources and taking action and one step further. And, the idea that while the accomplishments and the awards are important, if you don't take a time to reflect on that process and that learning, that there's the chance of missing the good stuff. And I know with 100% certainty that through interviewing Cale Sanderson, again, for those of you who don't know, Cale Sanderson, head coach at Penn State, who has been there for 8 years now and is building this dynasty, has really completely allowed his athletes and his recruits to buy in. And I know that one thing that he's mentioned in after this past performance was just this idea of gratitude. In fact, they were talking about, hey, look, it's amazing what you've accomplished. You're doing things that are really unprecedented. Nobody else is doing out there with high level competitors. And he responded back and he said, we're really excited about the future, but I'd really like to kind of savor now and just enjoy today. And I think that's so important. And I think if we look a little deeper into what Cynthia was sharing with us, that we were getting bits and pieces of of that as she was continuing to interview with us. I mean, what are your thoughts, Doc?
Absolutely. I mean, she even said that her turning point was saying that she doesn't have all the time in the world. She had always thought, and I think so many of us do, we put off these goals. We have these ideas and then we put them off and we put them off, and then something might happen and you think, oh my gosh, I don't have all the time in the world, so I need to do it now. But I think the same is true when you've done something amazing, is to take a moment and say, wow, I did that. Just enjoy what you've done and have gratitude for what you were able to accomplish, and just take the breath and enjoy that moment. I think we're so future oriented all the time, and it makes us overlook our accomplishments, and it makes us put off our goals and challenges. And so if we just we're able to stay present a bit more, I think that we would enjoy activities more and we would accomplish a lot more.
Agreed, Doc. And when we reflect on passion and the differential here, and literally what's being heavily researched out there, that difference between that harmonious passion and obsessive passion, that when you reflect and go a little bit deeper, there's this idea that our harmonious passion is tied into our autonomy. This idea of me choosing freely to do what it is that I was intended to do. When you contrast that with the obsessive passion, it becomes almost this locked into your identity, this sense of control that without it, you lose a sense of who you are and your identity. So, how does someone learn to be passionate about something, but kind of integrate that passion in a way that's productive for them, to where it doesn't define them, but they can certainly derive a lot of sense of satisfaction and achievement, in their lives.
It has to be a choice. It has to be that activity that they're choosing to participate in, that they're choosing to engage in, and that they feel good about doing. It's not whether they're self-esteem and their self-confidence is not based on their performance, but rather it's there first, and therefore they're doing it. And Cynthia even said it's the process. Focus on the process. Don't focus on the reward. Don't focus on the end point. You need to, to have a healthy, harmonious passion, you need to be enjoying the process and just enjoying it for what it is and what it's doing for you in that moment.
Yeah, in action, she talked about action and going one step further. So what keeps the momentum going? What are the action today that keeps me going tomorrow, that keeps me going a week from now, and that keeps me moving forward a year, 2 years, or maybe a lifetime? And I think that, and this is where the research again is going, and they're looking at this and saying, okay, well, what is it about passion and movement and just general overall satisfaction for someone who might fall into that category of, hey, I am completely obsessed, because the idea is that someone who moves into that frame of mind, not only does it tie in heavily to what it is that they're doing and define who they are, but the idea and the notion is that if that particular person is not doing that thing, that driving force, they feel guilty when they're not doing it. So now what happens is they move into a space where not only are they not enjoying the thing that they're doing, but when they're not doing it, they're not enjoying those other things that are a part of who they are as well. Mm-hmm. All right. So they're really, it's moving into what we call negative emotion or negative affect. And now they're deriving no sense of well-being or no sense of satisfaction in anything that they're doing when that obsessive piece, starts to grip them.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, some researchers talked about flow. And so if they define flow as the complete absorption in a present moment and experiencing mastery over that environment in that moment. And some of those researchers have found that when you have that flow, there is a higher, more positive well-being and general satisfaction in a person's life. And I think that that's the connection to positive psychology that, we talk about, is that we want to be overall keeping a nice flow, staying present in the moment, and trying to improve our overall well-being. That is ultimately our goal, is to find a higher level of happiness and a higher level of overall well-being. And I think all of us need to look at the activities in our lives on a regular basis and reflect and say, is what I'm doing adding to my flow and my well-being, or is it adding to negative emotion? Am I worrying about it while I'm doing it, as you said, and am I worrying about it when I'm not doing it? And is it just causing me more stress?
Yeah, agreed, Doc. And, I think one of the other components that's built into this philosophy is that those who do choose freely that to pursue that passion aren't driven by a sense of self-esteem or self-worth or these external rewards or praise or whatever it might be, a whole host of things that can influence us in our activities. Is that the idea is that when I move into this space of passion that is harmonious with who I am and what I want to do, it creates a lot more flexibility in our lives, our ability to kind of maneuver, to also identify when something is working and when something is not working. Because when you move into that obsessive space, there can be this level of persistence and drive that move us to something that is not necessarily good for us and good for our well-being. Whereas if I can stay flexible, through that harmonious, that peace and passion, that I can have, like I said, not just more flexibility and adaptability, but more positive affect, self-absorption, and flow.
Mm-hmm. So, Jay, when you think about this in terms of your own life, so what is an activity that you find that you've incorporated into your life where you have a harmonious passion?
I would say, exercise. I mean, exercise has moved into that space. I would say there was a point, and this just comes from me being a competitor and competing throughout college, where I think that there were times where there was this harmonious piece, but there were times where it became this obsessive piece, and there was this kind of duality and battle back and forth at time. But as I moved beyond those competitive years and have continued to exercise and stay healthy and stay fit, I have been able to kind of shift into that more harmonious side and say, I can choose this freely, on a day-to-day basis. This is something that I value. This is something that is important to me. This is something that provides a sense of satisfaction to me, and something that I conceive myself doing today, tomorrow, and for a lifetime. Really, I don't see any changing that, anytime soon. And also the flexibility and adaptability to find alternative ways to stay healthy and to stay fit. I know that the idea sometimes is that, it's kind of one dimensional, but with all the different activities and opportunities that exist out there, there are many ways, what I call climbing the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I wish I could say the same, that exercise and fitness were my harmonious passion, but it's absolutely not. And I do try to incorporate those aspects of well-being because I have a general desire to be overall, happy and feeling well. And so I incorporate exercise and nutrition and good sleep, all that into my life, but I don't have it as a passion. But I think the more components of mindfulness, meditation, faith, those are the ones that I'm much more comfortable in. And those are the components I think that keep me afloat on a regular basis. And that kind of goes back to the idea that there is that model, that PermaV model, because it's not a one size fits all. It's which components of well-being are stronger for you. What is stronger for one person is not for another. And Cynthia said it beautifully that her journey got her to where she is, but her journey is not everybody's journey, and we all have to really cue in on what is your individual journey and what are the components. You have to take a little bit of all of it because everything matters. Again, as Cynthia said, everything matters, but you have to find out which components do you want to weigh more heavily on to keep you afloat, and I think that's individual.
Yeah, agreed, Doc, for sure. And I do believe there is a synergy to each of those paths, but there are clearly ones that will define, each individual, more uniquely in whatever it is that they, opt to pursue. And I think that ties into passion as well, for sure, under those pieces, whether it's relationships or engaging in activities that provide, flow, or what achievement or just vitality, in that, exercising and nutrition, yoga. I mean, the list can go on and on. So, but each has, its value. And, and I think like what you're saying with Cynthia, and tying it in and loving the process and moving forward and really kind of savoring those things on a daily basis. And I think she was pretty clear, that it was even a process as she was going through her training, that there was the idea that at first maybe, she wasn't really, she was doing it and having success, but was still learning a lot about herself as she was going through that. I know that she was talking about how she was identifying stress and how she was managing her stress and how she was continuing to learn from really other people reflecting back to her. She did talk about that, being able to accept criticism or feedback from other people. Which is so
hard. Yeah.
Is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be able to open yourself up to feedback from other people in order to learn, to say, I don't know it all. And I'm going to let myself be vulnerable to hear the feedback you have to give. And I'm going to let myself change according to what I might need to change, and reject what feedback you don't think fits into your life, but accept what does fit in. And I think it's a hard process.
Yeah, to really listen to that.
Yeah.
To someone providing that type of feedback. I think there is communication, but the communication really isn't happening unless you're letting somebody in.
Yeah.
So, how do you get to that point and even savor that, I think is, and be grateful for that, because that can certainly propel someone forward and move them, ultimately to the space that they want to be.
Absolutely. Well, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to our show tonight. We hope that you found a takeaway from the episode and can incorporate the mindset of Cynthia into your own life. And next week, we'll be speaking with Harry Flaherty, who is a former NFL football pro and the director of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And our theme for the discussion will be on influence. So until next time, get out there and start living your life all in.
Thanks, folks, and have a great night.